somebody playing your own hand better than you is pretty humbling and inspiring. I remember I saw a concert of Bogdan Djukic, a fellow violinist, multi-instrumentalist who I love, and he started doing this really cool multi-clapping thing, like something like that. Just imagine it sounding way better. And so we got dinner together after the concert, and I asked him, like, yeah, how do you do that? That's super cool. And he was like, it's just like this, brother. It's just like this. And he just kind of showed me how you rub and then just kind of start. And he says, but you got to get a good sound with both hands. And, it's like, I've been clapping my whole life, but I haven't really thought much about what exactly makes a good sound on the clap. And so I just asked him more about that. And he said, well, you have to find it for yourself. But for me, it's just like this. I mean, it sounded much better than that. I was like, okay. And I started experimenting with it and trying, and I felt like I was getting it sometimes. And then, he says, here, brother. And he reaches over and just touches my palm, and one not quite. And then the second one just rings out, boom, just crystal clear, crisp. And I was just amazed. One, because I was like, whoa, this guy can play my own hand as an instrument better than I can. And two, it felt so soft. Like, it wasn't like he was like, I'll show you how to get that sound. Boom! Like, it was like he was touching my hand so much softer than I had been touching my hand, but yet it sounded so much more crisp and resonant. And immediately I knew that this was an analogy for other things in life. That as a musician, I obviously wanted to learn to do this, but I immediately connected it with other times life has taught me a similar lesson about, like, how often when something isn't quite working, do I just keep banging away at it harder and harder? And what about just like finding the sensitivity? What about softening and becoming more perceptive and going, okay, what can subtly adjust? Just these subtle adjustments to make it go from not working to really just working effortlessly. So then I became obsessed with just practicing this pretty much everywhere I went. I was just kind of lightly tapping and, oh, not quite. And, oh yeah, there it is. And about a year or so later, I moved to China, and I learned this Chinese idiom, or chengyu, which is 事半功倍, which 事半 means like half the effort, and 功倍means twice the result. So it's getting twice the result with half the effort, the efficiency. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with the chengyu in general. I was like, wow, in 4 syllables, we can have so much wisdom just like encapsulated. But that one really resonated with me as a reminder of what Bogdan had taught me, or, that Bogdan had reminded me of this thing that life was trying to teach me in many different ways. And just having 2 really concise reminders of this really important universal principle was just so valuable. One reminder was just a sensation, just feeling the quality of his hand, finding just the right contours of mine and that right type of impact to make it just effortlessly pop. And the other, these 4 little characters. But anyway, after several weeks of practicing this and feeling like it was getting better, like just wasn't necessarily nailing it every time, that experience of getting better but not quite mastering it yet suddenly led me to this this big, deep philosophical question. So a few weeks later, I had the opportunity to sit down with him again and ask him this deep philosophical question that had been burning inside me, that I'd been contemplating. And of course, he had this beautiful way of just kind of flipping the whole context on its head and blowing my mind again and teaching me another life lesson, which we'll get into in part 2. I want this just to focus on this beautiful lesson of 事半功倍, experienced so simply in the palm of my hand.